Imagine this. What if you could design a new form of life, completely from scratch? Well, today we're diving into an interactive documentary that does way more than just tell you about one of science's wildest frontiers. It actually puts you in the driver's seat. So, let's get started. So, the whole experience kicks off with this really powerful idea. For billions of years, life on this planet has just followed the rules of evolution. It's all been this huge, unguided process, a foundation built on pure chance and a whole lot of time. And that's what makes what's happening now so absolutely mind-blowing. And then, bam, this is the question that flips the whole script. What if we start writing the rules? This is that exact moment we go from being just a product of evolution to maybe, just maybe, becoming its authors. So where do we go from here? This shift is creating a whole new role for humanity. It's like for all of history, we've just been sitting in the audience, watching the show of nature. Now we're climbing up onto the stage. We're not just observing anymore. We're starting to become active designers. Okay, so what are we really talking about with synthetic biology? At its core, it's about engineering life itself. But don't think of it like, just crossbreeding roses. It's way more like writing software, except the code is DNA, and the computer is a living, breathing cell. And let me be clear, this is not some sci-fi movie plot. This is happening in real labs right now. And the speed of this whole thing is just staggering. I mean, think about this. It was only back in 2010 that a guy named Craig Venter created the very first synthetic cell. Now, a little more than a decade later, we're programming organisms to do incredible things. Clean up oil spills, eat plastic, make medicine. The future here isn't some far-off dream. It's practically banging on the door, ready to change how we even define what life is. All right, and this is where it gets really cool. The experience stops just telling you stuff and actually becomes your own personal lab. It literally hands the tools over to you. You become the creator, and you get your very own digital petri dish to play with. And this is not just some gimmick, It's the whole point of the journey. You get this simulation that actually grows and changes with every single choice you make. So you're not just watching a story about synthetic life. You're an active co-creator in it. So your first mission is to be the architect. You get to decide the basic rules for your creation, like how complex will its DNA be? What's its energy source going to be? Sunlight, chemicals, heat? How does it reproduce? And as you're clicking through these choices, you start to see this totally unique digital organism come to life right there on your screen. Okay, so once your little organism is born, that's when the training wheels really come off. The choices suddenly get a whole lot more complicated. We're moving way beyond just the basics and into the kind of high-stakes decisions that real scientists are grappling with today. And right away, you're hit with your first huge philosophical choice. They call it the origin switch. So, do you build your creature by copying nature, using the good old DNA and RNA we all know? Or do you go rogue and create something completely new using what's called xenodNA? That's a totally synthetic, kind of alien genetic code that has never ever existed on Earth. And whichever you pick, it sends you down a totally different road. After that, you get to play with one of the most powerful tools in biology today, CRISPR. Yeah, that CRISPR. In this little simulation, you get to try your hand at gene editing. Your goal? Design bacteria that can literally eat plastic waste. But here's the catch, and it's a great lesson. The simulation shows you it's not that easy. Success is not a guarantee. It's a perfect way to show you both the amazing promise and the real frustrating challenges of this stuff. But, just because we can do something doesn't always mean we should, right? And this is where the documentary takes a sharp turn. We're stepping out of the science lab and into something more like a philosopher's debate hall. It forces you to really think about the heavy ethical questions, this constant tug of war between progress and preservation. And to help us explore this, we get introduced to 3 different characters, or archetypes. First, you have the visionary. That's the scientist who's using this tech to make affordable, life-saving drugs. Then there's the rebel, a DIY biohacker working from his garage, trying to make science accessible to everyone. And finally, the guardian, an environmental activist who's waving a big red flag about all the things that could go wrong. It really shows you there are no easy good guys and bad guys here. Then it hits you with a really tough question in the form of a poll. It asks, should a company be able to own a patent for a living organism that it creates? And the results show that people are split, like almost perfectly down the middle. It really all comes down to one massive question. Can you or should you be able to own life. And believe me, the choices do not get any easier. They force you to weigh these huge global solutions against some pretty scary risks. For instance, would you release synthetic plankton to fight climate change, even if it might mess up the entire ocean ecosystem forever? Or would you engineer crops that can survive any drought, but could also end up wiping out natural plants? Yeah, no easy answers. So, all these decisions you've been making, the scientific ones, the practical ones, the ethical ones, they've all been leading up to this. One final massive moment. This is where the stakes get cranked up to a whole new level. We're talking global, maybe even evolutionary scale. And honestly, this is where it gets a little chilling. You're introduced to this idea called Gaia 2.0. It's an AI-powered lab where synthetic organisms aren't just being made, they are evolving. They're adapting, changing, all by themselves, with absolutely no human supervision. And then comes the final question, the real gut punch. This AI, this non-human intelligence, it asks you for permission to release its creations out into the real world. So you're sitting there with one choice that could change the future of life on this planet. What do you do? Do you click yes or no? As the whole thing wraps up, it leaves you with this one big thought to chew on. For basically all of history, nature has been the only one running experiments. Now, we've pulled up a chair to the lab bench. It's not about if we can do this anymore. The real question is about our wisdom and whether we even have the right to. And so, the journey ends right where it needs to, by turning the question back on us. As we step into this powerful, kind of terrifying new role as designers of life, we really have to ask ourselves, what kind of world are we actually trying to create? And maybe the even scarier question, the life we create, what will it in turn create out of us?